tonight, masks, baseball caps, and sunglasses. Well, federal law enforcement is masking up when they're cracking down. And it's raising questions over whether officers simply are protecting their identities or engaging in intimidation. Well, last week, a U.S. congressman confronted ICE officers arresting asylum seekers at a New York courthouse. Heavily armed and masked agents conducted an immigration raid near a popular restaurant in San Diego. And on Friday, masked agents of multiple agencies refused to identify themselves as bystanders as they detained a gardener in western Massachusetts. The acting ICE director says the agents are covering up to protect their families.
People are out there taking photos of the names, their faces, and posting them online with death threats to their family and themselves. So I'm sorry if people are offended by them wearing masks, but I'm not going to let my officers and agents go out there and put their lives on the line and their family on the line because people don't like what immigration enforcement is.
One of the reasons that this has become an issue, we talked about the congressman who interacted with them. Another congressman, Dan Goldman, said that immigration officers were engaging in intimidation, essentially. Let's listen to what he had to say.
This is Gestapo-like behavior, where plainclothes officers wearing masks are terrorizing immigrants who are doing the right thing by going to court, following up on their immigration proceedings, and trying to come into this country lawfully, which
Well, the great majority of them came into the country unlawfully. And standing in line and waiting for a court date is a beautiful thing if you showed up. All of them don't show up. And if you showed up, that doesn't guarantee you citizenship. You can still be deported right from that line. And the underlying reason is you are here illegally. That's why you have a court date. So there should be another process if you don't have court dates. Some kind of administrative process. But if you got to go to court and see a judge, it's probably because you snuck into the country. And for them guys to cover their faces or not cover their faces, law enforcement in this country has like unwritten rules and policies and things they want to do to normal citizens. So when they start doing that stuff to illegal immigrants, it doesn't shock me or anything. But good luck getting a win in that one. The United States has a way of looking at police officers, and you're not going to call them terrorists or look at them as terrorists. And in a lot of citizens' eyes as well, just because they're out doing their job and deporting illegal immigrants. And it's crazy the way we're battling over this in this country, but it's got to go away. We got to come to get some kind of term that makes sense. The police are doing their job. If in the course of doing their job, you don't like a part of it and you get on TV and spread that out there so other people can say, yeah, that ain't right. That's not fair. Is it? Isn't it? Sneaking into the country ain't fair.
is through asylum.
So in that case, it was at a courthouse where people were coming in for their regular check-ins. And what they're doing is they're dismissing the cases so that they can then arrest them on the outside. So that's what he's talking about.
Okay, so you have regular dates. And if you show up, then I know that to some people that might sound like some type of trickery. But they know when Donald Trump came in office, he has a different opinion than Joe Biden did. And his is to get people who came here illegally out of the country. And it's heartbreaking for some people to try to reconcile that. But the laws in this country is what we have to follow. The ones we like and the ones we don't like. And if it's illegal to enter the United States and just begin to live amongst its population, if that's illegal to do, then it needs to be stopped.
Yeah, well, look, again, if it's about protecting the police officers, then I have absolutely no problem with it. ICE is not a local law enforcement or even state police where community policing gets involved. It's a whole different aspect and a different role. We've seen it before. We were talking during the break. I've seen my law enforcement, if they're doing a drug bus, big bus of crack houses and that sort of thing. It's not completely unwarranted. So no,
But these
if
are
it's
people
about,
who are at the courthouse because they have a
Yes.
pending asylum
but if
claim.
it's a policy, it's a
They're-
policy.
You
If
know,
the
they're
policy
just,
is you're going to wear a mask,
they're
you're
not,
going to wear a mask.
and usually, I guess, in some of these cases, not necessarily criminals. So you're not talking about gangbangers.
She said some of these people, not necessarily criminals. You're talking about gangbangers. See, it's easy to look at a black man who may be a member of a street gang or who may not be the member of a street gang in a different light than you do an illegal immigrant. This lady is actually saying, like, these people are the only difference in them as us is that they don't have citizenship. That's a huge difference. When you have people in this country who have to deal with police officers who you say, hey, who are you? Call your supervisor or anything else. And they say, shut the F up, lay your ass down. You going with, you don't have a whole lot of room out there to be negotiating, the methods of your arrest. And they're dictating anything. And she's here talking like, hey, these people are being treated badly, but I can understand them being masked to some degree is what she's saying in, gang members, but not our illegal immigrants, not our precious illegal immigrants.
And drug busts. I mean, although perhaps there are some people that they're doing that with, but not in this particular
But again, if
case.
the agency has a policy and for consistency's sake, they're going to wear the mask to protect themselves and their family's identity, because it's not just about what they're doing in that moment. It's that, well, there's an ICE agent. Oh, and there's Fred down the road. And we know him and we know his family. And there's obviously a lot of political angst against this and a lot of, words like Gestapo tactics and these are terrorists and all that kind of stuff.
It's true when you have such a large amount of people in the United States defending the illegal immigration and the way it's going on now, even if the system's broken, as everybody says, but it's not broken when you're getting your way. It's not broken when people are flooding into the country as if the law had been already made or agreed upon or settled in Congress. No, it hadn't been. It's at an impasse. There's an issue. But instead of just opening the floodgates and letting it continue, which is what the Democrats feel like, hey, that's why there's no incentive for the Democrats to push for any kind of immigration reform or immigration anything, because they got more than they get in a law. And it's bad that people who are citizens of this country and people who should be upholding the Constitution are allowing that, because what they're saying to the rest of us is, just flood them on in. Yet, it's not just open the floodgates, it's who you let in. I mean, would they open up America and make it known to people from certain parts of Africa, which is almost any part, that we're taking in all the folks on the continent of Africa who feel that they need some relief or some kind of a break, not just South Africa whites, but all of Africa. The dark ones. We're taking them into the United States. I'll bet you those numbers will dwarf whatever you're getting in from South America and Mexico. People will be going, they'd pour in. But they're not allowed to in those kind of numbers. They're not allowed to just come into the United States. And I'm sure there are immigration cases as far as Africans go into this country, but nowhere near what we're talking about with that southern border. They have a system and a way of doing it that anyone coming into this country illegally knows the steps to take to get where they need to be. They may never get legal citizenship in this country, but they'll never get deported either. So that's as if you got to live out your dream. You got what you wanted. You're not being hounded or dogged by the police. And in these instances, when this does happen, that's when you can see the division and you can see people who are talking coherently and with common sense and people who aren't. Because it's just common sense that we must uphold the laws of our country, even the ones we don't like.
Which is complete nonsense. So when you have that kind of inflammatory language and they want to protect themselves and their family, they have every right to do that.
The problem is that it has to be viewed in the broader context. You have Vice President Vance
saying that the 14th Amendment of due process does not apply to immigrants in this country, even though the 14th Amendment applies to every person. He's saying people who are here as immigrants get less of a standard of due process. They shouldn't get the same rights. In that context, when you have masked agents going, it's hard to believe that it's simply for their own protection. If there was for their own protection.
Well, the sad part about it is, with Trump in control as president, couldn't he just do what he's doing right now, but prior to deportation, the physical act of the deportation, couldn't he parade them through some kind of a tribunal of a court, expedited, as long as they get that due process? It may not be in a normal court system. It may very well have to happen in an expedited fashion in some kind of a satellite system or whatever that's set up to accommodate this influx and to give those people that due process. Because I was one of those people, and to some degree still in my heart don't feel that they deserve the same due process that normal citizens of the United States get. But it does say that in the Constitution. And as a believer of rules and laws, I have to say they deserve their day in court. They deserve to be processed, and all of them won't get deported. Some of them will be allowed to stay. If it's just one of those things where you're just kicking them out no matter what, that ain't right either. But if you're gonna set up due process as you should, do it the right way, and but do it and continue with the deportations. There's no reason to stop deporting people. And I know there are people on the other side of the world and the other side of the United States democratic system who feel differently. They feel like, hey, you know what? That ain't good enough. It's always going to want to be better. We're going to want more. But we do have to compromise and to give those unfortunate folks the opportunity to have their day in court and determine whether they'll be deported or not is only right. It's only right. But after that determination is made and those who are deemed to be deportable, yeah, they should go. And whatever the United States government can do to go down to these countries that these people are claiming asylum from, we need to go fix that. There should not be any countries on the same continent that we're on who are torturing their people so bad that they can legally gain status in the United States because it's so hot over there. And we're allowing that. And we got our hands all over Africa, and we don't have that many Africans over here. So if we live this close to these people, we need to get ourselves involved with their circumstances. And hopefully it's nothing that we did that changed a region or an area and made it inhospitable for these folks, and they had to get out of there. If it's our fault, we need to fix it. If it ain't our fault, we need to go down there and have a look and see what we need to do. Because we're spread all over the place doing a whole lot of things, and that's something that will directly affect us at home. And then people like me who complain about our quality of life and our opportunities being harmed by influx of a lot of illegal immigrants who are getting more rights and privileges, in my opinion, than some United States citizens. It's a right and a privilege to be able to go into a country undocumented and live as the people who are documented are living, and to have the same kind of freedom to move about and not have any restrictions placed on you. And then when in the middle of a political storm, Trump comes in office and does something that is very unlikely to have happened under any other president, be it Republican or Democrat. They just would have accepted what we've absorbed and continued to drag this out because it's not a high priority, or has not been a high priority for either side. They need to sit down and settle it. These are people's lives, and people in the United States feel strong enough about it to do things that are not appropriate for our country, for us to be feeling that way toward our fellow Americans over something that can be resolved by Congress, and they won't fix it. Our judicial system has to be flooded with all of this, as if we don't have enough problems with all of the criminal cases and all the suing that goes on in the United States, and then we have to overburden another part of our judicial system with the immigration. It's just terrible.
I'd be sympathetic, but you have a systematic assault justified by the vice president to deprive people of fundamental due process.
That's because Bill Clinton signed a law in the 1990s that said illegal immigrants don't have the same due process. You can go blame Bill Clinton for that.
The Constitution. 14th
And the law was signed by Bill Clinton, but no one complained.
And that's the thing. It depends on who makes the laws or who writes up an act. And some people down to their core don't like it. But if it's their party, then they grin and bear it and they support it, which lets you know that they can bend and that they can do things differently than they are doing it. It's not always got to be so rigid, because sometimes it just matters who said it and not what was said. And not all this talk about these immigrants being abused. They're not. They're here illegally. And unfortunately, you can't come here illegally and get treated like you're on vacation. You're not. It's an illegal immigrant move. It's a transition from one country to another by not following the rules, though. There is no reward for that, and it shouldn't be.
About it for 20 years.
Hold on, Governor. I mean, the Supreme Court justices have said that it applies to immigrants.
But it doesn't have to be the exact same process of due process.
Due process does apply.
Due process.
But I mean,
you have
here's
to
the
have
thing.
an ability
I do think that
to defend yourself.
Notably, this is different, right? Like in the past, ICE agents did not go around wearing masks.
You know, in the past, they weren't mass deporting. In the past, Democrats weren't going around and calling names of Republicans and of ICE agents and of the president that could get them killed. If somebody feels that you are jeopardizing their livelihood and their opportunity at a crack at this country, you could be putting an X on their back. And that's not innocent. I don't care how you look at it. It's not innocent to be doing that kind of stuff with that kind of rhetoric and expecting these guys to go out there and with their faces exposed. You might have your mouth and your nose covered and thinking of the COVID situation and knowing that you're dealing with illegal immigrants who may not have the medical documentation to let you know if they've been inoculated from anything. There's supposed to be a measles outbreak. There's supposed to be all kind of outbreaks and things going on, down to the most recent COVID. And we just think these guys are supposed to go out there and just take deep breaths of, when these people exhale, put something over your face, a barrier. There's nothing wrong with that. If it makes them feel more secure, put gloves on too. Are you going to complain if they wear gloves? You don't know exactly what you're dealing with. And you don't know the sick illegal immigrants from the well ones. You don't know the ones who are highly steeped in criminal activity, as opposed to the ones who don't commit any crimes other than sneaking into other people's country.
It's very different, Abby.
Right. I mean, but it's only different because the Trump administration clearly has made this a policy.
Yeah.
Before they were deporting people. They deported many people under the last two administrations. Trump, Biden, and Obama. They did not wear masks as a course.
Biden didn't deport no whole lot of people. I don't know what she's talking about. He let a whole lot of people in. But the mask thing seems to bother her. But it could be for medical reasons. It could be for identification purposes, to shield your identity. It could be for your own personal reasons. You might be cold outside. I don't know what the temperature was that day. But damn, is it that big of a deal? Or is it just the fact that she doesn't want these people deported? She don't care what you wear. She just doesn't want them to go. And that's just not going to happen because you're whining about face gear or face protection or face coverings. That's just straight bullshit.
I think the difference now is that you have a greater propensity and likelihood for individuals to state where these people live, put photos of them, their wives, their children on the internet, have people showing up in front of their houses. So I do think it is a legitimate concern, as the director said. Look, these guys are doing their jobs. They're removing people who entered the country illegally. They have indeed broken the law, and we want to protect these individuals, our officers, and their families. So I'm not necessarily against it, so long as they're arresting these individuals, they do by law have to reveal who they are, what agency they're with, and as far as I am aware, they are doing those things.
A lot of times they're not. I've seen the videos. A lot of times they're not. The other thing is, I mean, Trump and his, supporters and some aides, they post the names and pictures of judges and their families.
That's
and
exactly what
all
I
of that stuff,
say.
and nobody talks.
And she's a journalist, and she should do a story on it, because that don't have nothing to do with what we're talking about today. If they are posting judges' names and families and addresses or contact information on the internet, then it's not right. I ain't gonna sit here and say, see how you like, no, it ain't right. It shouldn't be happening. Anybody who's doing it should be dealt with appropriately. But that you cannot put an illegal immigrant on the same plane as a judge, and the illegal immigrants are being identified. The police officers just don't want to be. They could identify the agency that they are working for. They're on government property. They're at a court building trying to ambush people, or whoever thought of that plan. It's gonna, no matter what you do, it's gonna be a problem. The areas that are not sanctuary cities don't have a bunch of illegal immigrants to ambush or sneak up on. You know where to find them, because those cities have been hoarding them there. It would be almost the same as if somebody ran into your house and hid, and you were like, why are you hiding? And they tell you, and you continue to let them hide. You just robbed a bank, and they're hiding. That's what they're doing. They're hiding illegal immigrants. And the word illegal, for all intent and purposes, could be dropped, because we collectively in this country don't treat them as if they're illegal immigrants. They are getting pretty good treatment for the most part. This little scare tactic of a deportation thing that Trump is doing isn't gonna really do very much by numbers, but it is going to get some people upset and nervous and rattled. But in the grand scheme of things, way more money being spent than people leaving. It's not as effective, and we're not getting our bang for the buck, is what I'm trying to say here. So I guess it's just going to be that way. We're going to have fingernails broken. We're going to have people's feet accidentally stepped on. It's going to be some things going on out there you ain't going to like. But you have to remember, these people are coming here and they're claiming asylum, most of them. Because if you're not, you don't even have a reason to be in line. And we need to figure out what's going on in these regions, in these areas. And then we can deny all of these applications just based on the region that they're coming from, because we should go over there and look into it and fix it. That should eliminate it. Or do we want to?
It's about protecting them. They're not even law enforcement.
So now are we going to have judges have masks on, if that's actually the excuse that they're using for these ICE agents to have masks? Look, I think the imagery is horrific from the standpoint of who the United States is and who we want to be from a global perspective. Who has sort of masked agents that come in, and you have, masked agents grabbing a mom, breaking the window of a car?
That happens. That's the funny part. And she's talking like this is just something that just came up for illegal immigrants and they never done it to nobody else. This is how naive or manipulative people can be.
Car grabbing the mom in front of her screaming child and not identifying themselves and not saying why she's being arrested. This is horrific. This is not the America that we saw before Donald Trump became president.
Actually, it is.
And what these ICE agents are doing, and this congressman called these ICE agents terrorists. They are instilling terror and fear and panic. They're instilling terror
doing their job.
and fear and panic.
So should they not do that?
You can instill terror and fear and panic in the course of doing your job. If your job causes you to arrest people, police officers must deal with terror and panic and fear all the time. just by them being in some people's presence could kind of get the heart pumping. So some jobs just require that. It's just a part of the job. It is what it is. That's why you must be well trained and conduct yourself professionally. And as a person who should know better, this lady's talking crazy. There's absolutely no way in hell that she's surprised that people feel in fear or afraid. They should be in fear or afraid if they know that they're not living up to the prerequisites of becoming a United States citizen. They should be upset and a little nervous.
Should they not do their job, Maria? I'm asking, should they not do their job?
There is a better way to do their job.
So they should tell their bosses, we're just not going to arrest illegal immigrants. We're not going to do our jobs. Sorry, I'm going home.
No, there's a better way to do the job. They should actually go after those violent criminals.
They should go after anyone who broke the law, which means if you enter our country illegally, that is
criminals.
They are criminals,
But here's
Maria.
Here's a problem.
But they are criminals.
But here's a problem, Sir Michael.
I want to give Bill a chance to
when they are
say
in
something
court, going through the process of asking for asylum, they are actually following the law.
See, you can't be applying for asylum or applying for resident status or a visa or anything else now while you're standing on this side of the border, because I do believe we have proper measures in place that they should be following that require them to begin this process on that side of the border. I mean, there just absolutely has to be a way for them to deal with this administratively in the beginning until they're allowed by order of the United States to come on over. Other than that, they're falling short. And this argument should end on that point, but she keeps going on and on as if they can sneak into the country, then turn around and say, "Hey, I'm following all your rules. I'm following all your laws." Now
they
have deportation orders.
No,
you know
they
that
don't.
to be
Not
true.
at that point.
Many of them.
And
All right, let me let Bill have a word
then you
on
give
this
them
topic.
the ability to say, you know what, I don't have to show up for my court order.
I mean, it's pathetic to pretend that, we're so concerned about their safety, they have to wear masks. I grew up in New York City, 40,000 cops, extremely dangerous circumstances. None of them wear masks except in extremely rare occasions when they were going after some gang leader who might have relatives who go after them.
None of that should matter. If a police officer is allowed to wear a mask while arresting gang members, he should be able to wear a mask while giving traffic citations, or he should be able to wear, and not a mask like a clown face or a Batman costume, but face coverings. It's not that uncommon with people who deal with the public a lot to want those or work in large groups. You might want that to keep colds down, flus down. That's more of the thing I think about than anything whenever I see people with the mask on, and because they're cold sometimes. But it's a big issue because it's apparently scaring the illegal immigrants. And I think seeing the badges and the military style attire that the police wear, that should be scared enough for them. So I don't think it's so much of the face covering. That's just something to make another complaint about. And they're going to keep complaining.
If they didn't, ICE agents have functioned in this country, they didn't wear masks. They shouldn't wear masks. It's total nonsense. And it's for intimidation. It's not really for their protection. It's ridiculous.
Now, how did he know that? How did he know each one of those police? Because I've worked around people who wear masks when they're in a car by themselves. And COVID protocol and all that's over. They still, you look at them and be like, what the? Some people just do. Some people like the fact that while wearing the mask and elevating their immune system, they don't get colds as much as they used to. There's a million reasons. For police to wear masks, it doesn't seem like that big a deal to me because I've seen it. I've seen it myself. I've seen it myself too often. Security guards, police, they want to put a mask on, hide their identity, stay warm, stay safe, who knows. But I think they're pushing a normal act by these police officers, which is probably something that they're allowed to do, so they take advantage of it and do it, and turning it into a fight or like it's some kind of a racial element involved here, and I don't think that's true, and I feel that it's very unfortunate that we get to that in our journalism where we drag people into believing things that are unreasonable, because that's unreasonable. to make people upset at their own government for enforcing the laws of their government. And yet you guys want to uphold the Constitution by making sure they get their 14th Amendment right of due process, which is in the Constitution, whether we like it or not. And just deal with the real part of it and quit the BS. Stop expecting us to be against our own police officers in this country when it comes to illegal. If I have to make a choice, I'm going to take the side of the police officers because they're the police officers of the country that we all have to abide by and follow the rules. So everyone else should be too. And with that, like, comment, share, and please subscribe. We'll see you on the next Black Popcorn.